That's good. Yeah, that's good.
God, isn't that just a majestic intro?
That's not our normal intro.
I love it. I love it. I love it, though. It just makes me sound so majestic. So this is Rebel Republic. We are the best political talk show in all of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Rhode Island. It doesn't matter. You're either with us or you're against us. And with me, as always, the voice of reason himself, Frank Cristiano.
You're so dramatic.
Well, I have to be. I have to be.
You forget to mention it's a conservative talk show, political talk show, not a, you listed probably 8 or 9 blue states right there.
Well, that's a point. That's a point. That's the fun of it. That's the fun of it.
Yeah.
We have a very, very special guest. We have Mr. Sean Van Diver, just so I say it correctly.
Van Diver. Okay,
because I'm bad with pronunciations and enunciations. Who is the founder and president of Afghan Evac, among other things? And we are so lucky and happy to have him on the show. Thank you, Sean, for joining us and being part of the Rebel Republic.
Damn glad to be here, guys. Thanks so much for inviting me on.
So I was doing some research on you. I knew you grew up in California, and you went right into the Navy at age 17.
That's right. I grew up in Bakersfield, California, where Kevin McCarthy's from, and was there from ages like 3 to 17. I was a little bit of a troubled youth, so I went to boot camp for bad kids a couple times in San Luis Obispo, and got kicked out both times. So I have a GED and a high school diploma. Went off to the Navy, got my ass kicked a little bit by my fellow sailors, and left with a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a whole bunch of certifications in security, homeland security, anti-terrorism, etc.
I saw that. A GED and a high school diploma. That's pretty impressive. Could I get a GED still?
I don't know. He's landed in a nice sweet spot right now for the education, and not paying $100,000 a year for education. So I think it's true. It's a good launching point right there.
That's true. So your Bachelor of Science was in Domestic Security Management, and then you got a Master's of Science in Homeland Security and Safety Engineering.
That's right.
That sounds complicated. That does not sound easy.
It is. So my favorite textbook was the Blaster's Handbook from the Safety Engineering. I thought it was pretty cool.
And who he said Kevin McCarthy? Who's that?
It was the Speaker of the House.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I should have known that. So again, you were in the Navy, and then you end up with Afghan Evac. It was started. I mean, it's a 501c. It's a nonprofit organization, technically.
That's right, 501c3. And if your listeners want to donate, they can go to afghanevac.org/donate.
We will put that in the show notes for sure. Absolutely. And it's funny because you served over in the Navy, and then you go right back over there, like with no fear. You go over there, you see what's going on, and you want to go and you want to help the people, especially the refugees that contributed to our cause to help us there.
I want to be so clear. I didn't serve in Afghanistan. I served up the coast of Iraq. I served up the Horn of Africa. I served in South America and Latin America. I never served in Afghanistan. And we didn't have to go back to do this work. A lot of what we did was mobilizing Americans for welcome to make sure that we followed through on the promises that guys like me and folks that served in Afghanistan made to these people who took life in our name.
Yeah, and there were promises made, and promises obviously fell through at some point. And then you obviously mobilized the team and took action, went back over there, and was like, we got to get some people out of here. And
That's
you
right.
brought families over who've had success, who've done well. And that, to me, is so philanthropic and impressive because there weren't a lot of people doing that at the time.
Well, no, it looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, it looks like that your organization brings together different groups. I mean, there's hundreds of groups listed on your site as well in reading that are sort of scattered, and you're just trying to put them together for the sole purpose of doing this.
Yeah, look, we started because I was sitting here. I got a call from my buddy. I got a text from my buddy that said, "Hey, brother, I'm sorry it's been so many days. I had to go to the top of the mountain to get cell service. We're surrounded by the Taliban. We're running out of ammunition. I think I'm going to die. Will you get my family back to San Diego? Will you grant my last wish and get my family back to San Diego?" I was like, holy crap. So I ended up getting dropped in like 40 different chats. And, I had one guy that I was trying to help, but we were telling his story and we were collecting information on other Afghans. And we had a pledge form up because I didn't want to touch anybody's money. We had a pledge form up to like sort of capture what sort of scale people would be willing to help at. And what I noticed was like we needed everybody talking. So I started a single, 6 a.m. every day, 6 p.m. every day. Pacific time, we got people together. We gave them 45 seconds total to talk, 15 seconds on what happened in the last 12 hours, 15 seconds on what happened in the next 12, what's going to happen in the next 12 hours, and 15 seconds on what they need or what's in their way.
And, this started in 2021. And when did you realize that this was not going to be some quick and easy 2-week process, not a sprint? This was going to be a marathon.
It was after the last plane left, and we were like, okay, are we going to just pack up and go home? And I pulsed the network, and they were like, hell no. So we landed a meeting with the State Department, and what we found, despite all the nonsense that you would see in the news, what we found was that the staff at the State Department, including Secretary Blinken and Undersecretary John Bass, they wanted to keep this going. DOD, less so. People at DOD, but not necessarily Secretary of Defense. But we knew we had to keep this going. So what we did is we got all those groups together. We got them rowing in the same direction. People from left, right, and center, every part of the American experience. And we wrote a letter to President Biden and congressional leaders in December of 2021. And we said, this is what right looks like. This is what you need to do to get this right. And I'll be damned if they didn't do it.
So it wasn't asking, you were telling.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You were telling him that. So he did not do it. And this is Coach Schumann, by the way. Coach Schumann, this is Sean.
Hello.
Oh, he's still trying to get his thing right.
Yeah,
so they did not obviously listen to you at first. How did you get them to respond?
Sure. It took us a little bit, but we got them to respond in short order to a few asks as soon as we wrote that letter. But that letter wasn't written until December, right? There was a good 4 months there. So we had to demonstrate power and demonstrate the broad swath of the American public that cared about this. And there were a lot of things that it took to build over time through 2022 and 2023. But ultimately, we got President Biden to establish what's called enduring welcome. And enduring welcome is our safest, most secure legal immigration pathway in our country's history. Ronald Reagan would have loved it. Conservative folks who care about immigration, legal, safe immigration, they want enduring welcome. It's the most vetted pathway that there's ever been in our history.
And that's what you talked about, Frank.
Yeah, well, but has that been put on hold right now by the Trump administration because of
unfortunately, what we had is we had 5,000 Afghans a month coming out of Kabul on 28 flights. They were going to 3 different locations around the world. They were going to Qatar, the Philippines, 4 different locations. Qatar, the Philippines, Albania, and Germany. Germany was closing down, and the Philippines was picking up, so that's why I said 3. And then after even more vetting, because they were vetted before they ever left Kabul, after even more vetting and more processing, medicals, etc., they would go on to the United States, where they would be resettled into our communities all across the country. And it was working really well. In fact, there's never been a single incident with somebody who came over here through and during welcome. And on January 20th, because of the executive orders, all that got shut off. And we thought at first that it was a mistake, but it ultimately didn't end up being a mistake. We think that the president was deferring to Stephen Miller on this, and he just doesn't want anybody to come here. And it really sucks because these folks are different. These are people who stood by our sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen. The Space Force wasn't around. But they stood by our troops. They saved our lives. And the most important thing of all of this is that these are people who somebody with an American flag on their shoulder said, we're going to take care of you. Promises were made, and you have to be able to cash the checks that America writes.
You can't write the checks.
I've got to ask this in a way. So with the recent act that happened in D.C. with the Afghan who ended up killing two National Guard, well, one still in critical, two National Guardsmen, and then the follow-up in, I think, Austin, Texas, where there was another Afghan who was tied into this as well, and they were friends. Were those two vetted through your program or through the program you had mentioned, or were those separate incidents? So
I'm going to be very clear. Afghan evac doesn't vet anybody. That's a government job. Only the intelligence agencies, Department of Defense, law enforcement can do the vetting. They were vetted. And the truth is that nothing would have been picked for these guys. Nothing would have been picked up. I do want to do a little bit of disabusing narratives that are out there.
Sure.
I don't know that they were necessarily friends. I think they served on the same base, but not necessarily at the same time. And the guy in Texas I've seen the transcript of the video. He was reported by Afghans in his area. I know because the guy that I got involved to help, Lucky, who begged me to grant his last wish, he made it out of Kabul. He talked his way through 10 Taliban checkpoints, got on a good helicopter over to HKIA. Afghans reported that guy. That guy never would have been found out. And here's why he never would have been found out. And here's why I also think the administration has made so much noise about this. As part of DOGE and the realignment of federal resources to immigration, they deconstruct. Remember, I have a master's in Homeland Security and Safety Engineering, right? I know this shit cold.
Yes.
After 9/11, we established this domestic security apparatus that protected us, right? From countering violent extremism, from threats from overseas that were radicalizing people here, from homegrown terrorists, domestic terrorists who were being radicalized in some way here, people who were having behavioral issues, right? So mental health, and then other targeted violence, right? So people talking about stuff on the internet and indicators that they're going to do something, or indicators that, local indicators that they're going to do something. Here's what happened. The administration defunded all of those programs, cut all those programs, killed them all.
Wow.
Slashed them. They're dead. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. Same with human trafficking programs, right? Back in my day, I served on the Human Trafficking Task Force here in San Diego, and there were Republicans and Democrats, and everybody cared about that. These guys cut it all. They cut cyber. One person on the Senate, a Republican on the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, said to me that they're really terrified because this administration has wrecked all of the things that are meant to keep us safe, with the exception of anything focused on immigration. And look, the immigration effort.
Do you think that it's a warranted national security risk at this point with the recent events like that Frank brought up, and the fact that they actually were vetted, that we don't know who would be safe to bring in or is not safe to be bring in, which would lead me to think that at this point, especially with not just Afghan but other potential issues with other Islamic groups and potential terror cells throughout the United States that have come in through various different reasons, various different groups, that it's an awfully high risk for Americans to be able to take on. Even though I agree with you that, like, the guys that fought, alongside and that obviously served on our side, there's no doubt. I thought the whole pullout and all of that stuff was just crazy, absolute craziness. And I don't, once we're in there, right, which, I don't know that I agree with how we did that from the get-go. but once we were in there, to radically pull out and create the chaos that came from that. I agree with you on that. I think that part is probably a lot of the consequences come out of all of that, right? Which is one of the reasons why, and I think Frank probably agrees in this. Well, I thought it was such craziness to all of a sudden just pull out like that, right? But then obviously now you have the kind of backside of it all, right? So the backside of it all is, though I'm sure there's a lot of people that you deal with, and obviously maybe served alongside you, maybe even saved or protected you at some point. But there's so many guys that we don't know about, right? And I think it's very difficult to figure out which groups of people could have been turned, aren't turned, could be turned if they come into America. So they may not be turned, you know what I'm saying there.
In Homeland.
They're ostracized.
Yeah, you're watching too much Homeland there, Coach. Like,
I think it's valid. I think it's valid. I think you have terror cells that are that are throughout the United States, and there are maybe individuals. As scary as a terror cell could be, an individual could be just as scary, right? I mean, an individual can do a lot of different things. So I think that's part of the overall issue, even though I do agree with you. I mean, like, I think that, I mean, when I watched the planes leaving, I thought, geez, not only were our soldiers left behind and left in bad situations, but some of the people who, like you brought up, who served alongside us, those people are obviously in some bad situations, and it became, for lack of a better word, a gigantic shit show, right? So, but that's what I'd like. Like, what is the solution to all of that?
Sure. So I'm really glad you asked that, and I'm going to take it in a few parts, and I'm going to go on for a little bit. But there's a lot here, right?
Yeah, sure.
Number one. None of the people that we've talked about, the guy that we talked about in Texas, that guy didn't even do anything. He talked shit on the internet, right? Like, that's all he did. And I see more insane shit on the internet, on Twitter,
social media.
Yeah. But he did it 2 days before this guy.
I see Candace Owens say more insane shit just on our podcast.
Yeah, but that's exactly right? So this guy is struggling with mental health issues as anybody else would. If their families had been left behind, if they'd been lied to or ignored. And you talked about people getting turned once they're here. The guy that did the shooting didn't get turned, right? That guy broke. We handed him guns at age 15 and said, go kill people in the name of the United States of America. We'll take care of you on the back end. And then we didn't keep our end of the bargain. So he came over here. There was nothing to vet for. Like, he wouldn't have been... There was nothing to find in his vetting, right? Now, if we're worried about risk once people get here, I'd say, are you aware that in September there were 2 mass shootings, 13 hours apart, from 2 veterans in 2 different states? When that happened,
I'm not saying that there aren't veterans I'm not saying there aren't plenty of homegrown problems.
Yeah, but we
I'm
didn't
saying,
say
are we
kick them all
adding
out,
to
right?
problems that we currently might already have? That
we didn't say kick them all out or end veterans benefits. We didn't say, hey, nobody gets a GI Bill. Hey, nobody gets health care after serving in the military. Hey,
right, but that wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense.
The same way it wouldn't make sense to go back on the promises that we made to all of our wartime allies.
They're not American citizens, are they?
I mean, they're every bit the veteran that I am, right? They fought our war for us.
They're still not American citizens.
That's okay.
I'm not saying they should go back on it. I agree that those things are wrong.
Yeah.
But to me, it becomes potentially compounding issues.
I know. We brought
the way I look at it
here, and one guy did a thing.
It was an isolated.
Here's my issue, and I'm going to sound like an Islamophobe. Fine, whatever I sound like. We're bringing and they fought side by side. They helped us. Maybe we got to bring them over, but we have to put them somewhere. But besides vetting, I have no idea. But the religion, a lot. We place America first if we're a citizen. God in America, God in the countries, they're somewhere in there in between. Anyone with Islam ties places the religion first. That's how the guy in Washington got radicalized. He got radicalized through online or whatever, and maybe he was a cell, and somebody picked up the phone and said, "Go do the job," whatever it is. But the religion radicalizes people from that part of the world. In this country, it's not. I'm a Guinea. And when they took down the Columbus statue, I didn't strap a bomb to myself and go run into a building and blow it up. And that's my feeling. I know I'm simplifying this in a way, but my feeling is we're bringing over people that can be easily radicalized over time, even if they did serve with us. I mean, I don't know how many interpreters or assistants turned on American military at some point or another. I'm sure there's some. Just like we said, there's some veterans that do shootings in this country, but to bring them over here, and I want them over here, but I don't know how do we contain and vet them to make sure we're not bringing in someone that's going to radicalize over time. And I guess that's an impossible answer.
It's not going to be perfect.
It's an impossible answer.
Yeah, you can let your dog in.
Yeah, fucking dog.
I wanted to ask Sean. There's
Wait, real quick. Can I answer something?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
All right, so. A moment ago, there was a question of what was it? I don't remember. It was something about terrorists. Oh, terror cells. Listen, guys, don't watch too much Homeland. I happen to be an expert on this.
I've never watched an episode. Never watched it.
Don't watch too much YouTube. Don't watch too much. Whatever you're watching. If there were terror cells all over this country, there'd be a lot more dead Americans.
Yeah.
Right? There's not terror cells all over this country. If there were, then either
there could be sleeper cells.
Maybe, but how long are they sleeping?
I mean, listen. All I see is when I see not Flint, Michigan. I think it was Flint, Michigan, or one of the towns around there.
Dearborn.
Sorry, Dearborn. You're right. Dearborn, Michigan, and I see people that actually are living in America that are Islamic, yelling "Death to America." I think to myself, wow, okay, these are people that are already here saying that. Do we need to be compounding the problem even more? And
I think we have to make a decision about free speech. We have to decide: do we care about free speech or do we not?
No one's telling them to not give free speech. No one stopped them from saying "Death to America." They said "Death to America" all they want.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have to stand by and say that's okay either.
You don't. We can have a debate about that. But if people are here and they're naturalized citizens and you get to have free speech. I'm pissed off at America all the time, right? But it's still the greatest country in the world, and I'm still damn proud to have served in the military, and I'm still damn proud to have helped
absolutely
come here. So I just think we have to think about things as a whole, right? If we believe in free speech, then if people say "Death to America," that's their prerogative. I care about people's actions, and we can't punish them. We can't punish a collective of everybody for the actions that if we punished all veterans for what Timothy McVeigh did, he blew up a fucking federal building, man. If we punished all veterans, how would we get anybody to serve? And that how would we get anybody to serve question? We're maybe about to go to war in Venezuela, right? Or in China, or in Iran, or name the place. If we go there, Joe from Nebraska has no clue about the culture there. Joe from Nebraska is going to get his ass blown up if he doesn't have local support to help him. And right now, everybody in the world knows what the United States government has done to Afghans. And so earlier you asked me, so what's the answer here? What I think the answer here is not slow it down more. We've seen what happens when we slow it down more. All these backlogs happen. People fall into homelessness. People fall into great mental health challenges. What we need to do is make it better, smarter, and faster. Better vetting, faster vetting, better jobs programs, a better alignment. There are doctors that have come over from Afghanistan and are Uber drivers right now, right?
Yeah.
And to the point you said earlier about
I don't know the jobs though.
There's one really important
point for anybody. I want to make
one really important point here. I want to make a really important point here. The most patriotic people that I've ever met are the Afghans that I was with last night at a Yalda celebration, who are so proud to be Americans. So proud to be Americans. They're so confused about what is happening right now, why their families can't come here, why their neighbors are being hunted down in the streets by masked agents of the state. Do you know where we have masked agents of the state unidentified, disappearing people? That's what the Taliban does.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask because I heard there was a famous story of you on the phone with Josh and another veteran while they were literally carrying babies over a wall. Can you tell that story in your own words? Because just reading about it was astounding.
Like, I don't know what story you're talking about, but I can tell you that there were a litany of cases where we were on the phone trying to get people with blue passports or trying to get Marines to take babies, trying to get Marines to take our wartime allies in, because it was really dangerous for little kids at the airport, right? Really, really dangerous, really scary and dangerous. And so people with the youngest kids it was really hard for them to make it out. And here's what happened is our government told people that if a baby got there or if they got on a plane, like as people were getting on the planes, as our government was rushing people onto the planes, they would tell them, hey, it's okay. We're going to reunite you with your family as soon as you get over there. It's 4.5 years later, and there's still 15,000 people that need to be reunified. Only 2,500 were reunified. And it's horrific. I want you to imagine if you had a 4-year-old,
Jesus,
they'd be 8.5 now, right? If you had a high school freshman, they'd be graduating and starting their career or college. And I talk to those people all day, every day. And people are forlorn. They're like, I'm going to go back to Afghanistan because I can't make it without my wife. I can't make it out without my kids. Women can't travel alone there. So if their husband's here, how do they get to the airport?
How do you know? Obviously, they're not out in the open, or because someone will recognize them as assisting, the U.S. in that conflict. So, how do they operate? Where do they live or move? Are they constantly on the move?
Yeah, look, it's different for everybody, right? Some people have, luckily, like family that is low key. People are moving around a lot in Kabul and the other major cities, but it's really scary, and they're getting, knocks on their door. And we had this inherent protection as Enduring Welcome was going on, and that's gone away, right? And we had this inherent protection in Pakistan as we were moving people through there, and that's gone away. And the Trump administration didn't talk to anybody in Pakistan. They've trapped. I want you to hear this. There are 3,000 individual family members of active duty U.S. military service members, moms and dads, brothers and sisters. A U.S. military family member, a mother of a service member, had her throat slit about a year ago today because we didn't move fast enough on this. And that's on Joe Biden, but Joe Biden was at least moving some people, and they were getting it was going.
This was American citizen that was stranded there?
No, this is an American citizen who is serving in our military.
Right.
Their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister.
Who are Afghani? I mean, who are of American? Are they American citizens, or are they?
The Afghans in Afghanistan are Afghan citizens, right? These are folks who served alongside our country.
They fought with us, yeah.
They fought with us. Then they came here as SIVs and they naturalized, or their families came here in the 70s, right? When they were fleeing the Soviets. They naturalized. They have American citizens that have since joined the military. So it could be like a 20-year-old born here, natural born American citizen whose family's back in Afghanistan still, right? Maybe mom and dad went back. And they're serving in the military. Their relationship to that service member puts them in grave danger, right?
How do we protect? How do we? So those people that are over there, is there a program to protect those people? Because you're not going to be able to bring in everybody whose family member's still over in another country. No. That's an impossibility.
Not over in another country. This is very specific. The United States was at war there, fighting the Taliban.
No, I get it.
There's only 3,000, right? 3,000 would fit in Utica. Like, there's not 3,000.
But Utica wouldn't want them at Utica. I mean, I'm just saying,
you could fit 30,000.
Probably could fit 30,000.
There's no one here. We do have a big refugee center here, by the way. A lot of different nationalities are here coming from overseas.
Right. Look, and think, like, America was built on this, right? Ronald Reagan, when he described the shining city on the hill, you know what he said about it in his farewell speech? On the Midway, he told the story of, like, the Midway was out there saving refugees in the South after Vietnam, and he describes this story of a refugee saying, "Hey, sailor man, freedom man, help me," and we did. And he said, "Hey, I want to define the shining city on the hill." He said, "You've heard me talk about this speech after speech." It was his farewell address, and he said, "The way that I see the shining city on the hill is it's a bustling city, bustling with commerce and people. And if the city had to have walls, then the walls had doors, and the doors would be open to anybody with the strength and the courage to make it there." And
I'm curious about this, though. So we're talking about Vietnam. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So the biggest difference to me in people leaving communist countries versus leaving an Islamic country is they're bringing a religious faith with them that potentially has dire consequences. Okay. Whereas the overwhelming majority of people that are coming from Cuba, that have come over from Vietnam, those people are escaping, looking to be part of the United States as it is. It is not always the case with Islamic groups that are brought over. That is part of the overall issue that we have. We have a battle culturally and religiously within the United States, where one group is trying to, if they can, move other groups out of their areas. And I'm talking within certain cities and stuff. So that's a true reality that is going on in the United States and through large parts of Europe. And so though there are many great people that are of Islamic faith, okay, and I know a lot of great people, and so does Frank, okay, you have an overall issue with trying to figure these things out. It is not a slam dunk situation.
Well, it's not
you know
perfect.
what I mean? And I get your point on these guys that have served along that become naturalized citizens. It's horrible for them and their families. I get it. That's why I asked. Is there a way that we could serve programming for people that are still in that country to be able to protect them, much like what we have for people that are in witness protection programs and stuff like that, right? That to me would be
the SIV program and the refugee program are that program, right?
Okay. So then the next step is to bringing them over to the United States, though, is not necessarily the answer.
But that was the promise that we made to them.
We made to them. We said they could come. There was a check we wrote.
And that's the promise we made to them on our way out.
I think it's terrible because we made that promise and then we pulled out of the country. But when Biden did that changed the whole nature of everything. And I'm a conservative, and so I was completely against the way that we pulled out of there, the way that we just kind of just completely ripped the Band-Aid off immediately. I thought that was a bad way of doing things. My biggest point on all of this is I think we should be helping those people. I don't know that a program to bring them over at this time is the best served in America for Americans. That's my biggest thing. So, I'm not saying that there isn't a point where it is, and I don't know, I don't think I have the solution as far as how to best do it, but I do not think the best solution is just to take a whole swath load of people and put them into a city. And
do you think we should kick Christian nationalists out too?
They're American citizens?
Yeah, and there's non-American.
Well, they're American citizens. They're already American citizens. I'm not proposing kicking any American citizens out, no matter who they are. Okay,
so
if they commit a crime, they go to jail.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're making
a crime, they go to jail. That's what they do. If they commit murder and the place has death penalty, they go on death penalty.
That's what we would do to anybody, right? The religion notwithstanding. So
absolutely. Why should we bring over people from another country that are not American citizens?
Because we promised them that
we
if they
promised them, Dave.
People promise a lot of things. People promise a lot of things, and it sucks that not all promises get served.
Yeah,
But
but if
they
the United States
fought
of
for
America
us.
makes a promise, that's got to be followed through.
They fought right beside us. They fought
I
for
think
us.
it depends on the situation in this case. And I think that the
I think
climate
so.
in America has changed radically. And I think it's changed radically. And I think it sucks from that standpoint for those people. I do. And I think that something should be done for them in their country. But until we have something here that can protect the American citizens here, I do not think
the Trump administration killed all that.
No, I'm saying until we can protect the American citizens that are currently here, if we bring in a foreign person,
You're making things that don't make sense. Like bringing
it
in
makes perfect sense. It's clear as I'm saying it as clear as crystal day. If they're a current American citizen, they are protected by American laws, rules, and values. And if they commit a crime, then they have punishment according to that.
So would you feel the same way if the shooting didn't happen?
You don't think you should punish
people unless we know that the process is going to be able to get us where we need to.
We haven't had a single issue with the vetting. There's been no problems with the vetting.
That's what I'm saying.
You just said that we vetted we had a person that was vetted that committed a crime in Washington. You said it was Washington, D.C.
Are you under the impression that the vetting is meant to detect future crimes?
It's an isolated incident.
I think it's trying to protect potentially future crimes. Yeah. I mean, I lived across the river from 9/11. I still remember it. I have family members in 9/11. I have 100 people that worked on the 105th floor at Kenner Fitzgerald that died in 9/11. Damn right, I remember that. You fought in it. You were put in those terrible situations. I mean, yeah, that's I believe that.
Have anything to do with 9/11?
I didn't say they did. I said the people of Islamic faith that were not American citizens had something to do with 9/11. Is that not a fact?
So, do you think Christian nationalists or Muslims have killed more Americans?
I don't know who's done what. I'm saying that if it doesn't matter what it is, if they're an American citizen, they get dealt with in American laws.
Yeah, but
why would we bring over somebody from another country that we don't know if they can commit a crime on our soil?
Well, it's got to be Christian. It's got to be Christian nationalists. I mean, because we've been here forever.
It doesn't matter one way or the other. If they're American citizen, they commit a crime and they're terrorists. They're treated accordingly.
Yeah, but Coach,
they're treated accordingly.
Coach, American laws apply to everybody that are here.
In America.
Yes.
And they're here legally too. They're here legally.
They're already here legally. It's hard to do anything about someone that's already here legally. I'm talking about people that we're bringing over.
Stripping status from people.
What's that?
The administration is stripping legal status from people, and then they're saying these illegal.
So they're naturalized. That people that are actually citizens.
They're stripping
American citizens.
That doesn't matter at all.
So what are they stripping? I'm just curious.
They're stripping green card status, or they're trying to strip
green card status. Says the government has the right to take a green card status. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying they have the right to do it. Okay, what else are they stripping?
They're stripping parole status. They're stripping the temporary status that people are on while their immigration paperwork is going through the system. They're stripping asylum status from people. And they're trying to.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't know who those individuals are, but the American government has a right to do that.
No, they don't.
They absolutely do. They're not American citizens. Absolutely.
They were American citizens.
No, they're not. He's not talking. He's talking about green card temporary status. Absolutely no. No.
Coach, if your governor or the president of the United States went to you and said, "Hey, we're going to go and do this for your daughter or your son. We're committed to it." And then the next day it came in and said, "Sorry, that's pulled. You don't get to do it."
They told me that they're not going to increase my taxes. They do that every single 4 years. They increase my taxes. They tell me that gas prices aren't going to go up. They go up. They tell me that they might tell us that carbon emissions are going to go down. They go up. I mean, people. People tell lies all the time about things that and maybe not intentionally. I mean, maybe they don't intentionally. I don't know if they do or they don't.
I think what you're seeing now is this country is doing an overreaction, which I think may be justified because of the actions of the previous 4 years of the last administration with a border and immigration policy that was non-existent. I mean, basically, you can have millions of people. Yeah. You can have millions of people coming across the border, and that have caused not just a safety issue, which is a possibility. Sure, more more naturalized citizens, more citizens born here are going to create more crime than immigrants, but
and it's per capita.
Per capita, right? Per capita.
Commit more crime per capita as a percentage of the population.
Correct, but I'm just thinking now. I think it's an overreaction, justified or not, by the government of, and it's not just crime we're talking about. We're talking about a stress on the economic structure of this country as well. You bring in 20, 30 million people, whatever it was over the time. Who knows? It's 11, 20 million.
Don't we have a job shortage still?
I'm sorry?
Don't we have a labor shortage still?
There's a labor shortage because we've created 3 generations of kids that have grown up to be adults that don't want to work. I'll be honest with you.
Well, they're sitting there
with the if education. You can't get the education, I don't.
It has to do. We have an overabundance of knowledge workers and a lack of workers that are working jobs that have to do with manual labor. That's really where we have a lot. We have an overabundance of white collar workers.
Manual labor jobs.
What's that?
I was led to believe that a lot of immigrants did manual labor jobs.
No, they do. They do. And I'm not saying they don't. Absolutely, that might be the fact. But that's not actually one thing to do with this. Like, we may not have like those. There are people coming over here just to do manual labor jobs. Some of them maybe. Some of them maybe not. Do they have any skills from that standpoint? Some may not. Like, these are all things that if someone's going to be brought over to America at this juncture during a very, very, what I believe is a very, very volatile time from that standpoint. Okay. Not just people from outside the country. It's people inside the country. I think you're right about that. But I think that all this becomes a mixing pot. Do we need to continue? And I think it's terrible that we make promises that we don't keep. I think those things are terrible. I hate it when my wife or my kid makes a promise to me that they don't keep. It's terrible.
This is life and death, Dave.
That's everything. You know what? It's terrible. I said it was terrible.
Yeah.
Right? It's terrible.
It's terrible and it's unnecessary. We don't have to do it, right?
Can I ask you a question though? Because I'm the best podcast host in the universe. Please.
You're awesome. This is going to be a shitty question, Sean.
It's not going to be
a good question.
It's not going to be a shitty question. September 2021 comes. People are leaving in droves. You stay. And you have been open about really everything that you've dealt with, everything that you've gone through with your mental health and all the issues that have come back with you. Why have you kept going? Why have you kept this fight going?
Well, this is about the idea of America, right? We're supposed to be a place, like Ronald Reagan said, a shining city on a hill. We're supposed to be a place where hard work gets you a day's fair wage. We're supposed to be a place where anybody can make it here, right? The American dream is supposed to be a real thing. While the administration is trying to kill the American dream for these folks and for our veterans that served alongside them, we're trying to make sure that people remember what that looks like. And it's worth it, right? We made promises to these people, and I don't want people who follow me.
You're not giving up on them.
We're not giving up, but we're also not giving up on the service members who are later going to look at somebody and say, hey, will you help me out? We want them to be able to thrive. We want them to not be turned into liars. And that's like, people can have disagreements around immigration and who should be or who shouldn't, but you don't get to disagree once a check has been signed. You can't take it back, right? You've got to follow through on the policy until that's done. And if President Trump doesn't want to do that in future conflicts, then great. But it's illegal. That's the law that these folks are still be able to.
If you had like a magic wand of the process that would be best for them and best for America at the same time, to make sure everybody, on both sides, it's not just vetted, but we know, okay, that something isn't going to arise later on, that, maybe you hey, listen, they may love you, right? Because you've done great things for them, but, and the people that you're working with, but, could harbor some ill will. They come over here, they don't get a job, right? Now, all of a sudden, now that goodwill could go away very fast. I mean, life takes over, right? And
Coach, 200,000 of these folks came here.
If you had a magic wand of like the steps that you would take, you know what I mean, to serve both sides, to help it.
Sure
like, what would you do? Like, you now are in charge of all of this in America, right? And how would you have this handled?
Sure. So it would be a rapid. You know how you get an I-9 when you go work somewhere? You fill out a bunch of paperwork. So DHS knows that you're a citizen. Some version of that. filled out for anybody creating a relationship with the United States who is being made this guarantee, and continuous vetting throughout their service to us, so that when a risk moment happens, somebody from the Taliban knocks on their door and says, "I'm going to kill you," they can hit the button to go. They can have been totally vetted they would get rapid accession to the United States and rapid green card, which is what happens for SIVs now. And then they would have the same resettlement benefits they were able to get when they got here, and rapid adjustment of status to American citizen, just the normal.
What kind of support would they need in America? Like, what kind of support would they need in America, though? Like, so they come in America. What kind of support would they need?
Yeah, there's tons of resources that people get. Yeah. People have been, the 200,000 of these folks came here, and you haven't heard about. There was one guy out of 200,000. If you put 200,000 Marines in a room, you would have all sorts of crimes happen.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So look, man, like the boogeyman that you're talking about here doesn't exist for these.
It was an isolated incident
because the system works really well. Now, it would be better if it was rapid, right? These folks have to wait 5-10 years. That's insane. There's people that have been waiting here for 4.5 years to get permanent or durable status here. That's insane. That's unfair. And we would never do that to people, right? We should never do that to people. So if we can make the system better, then everybody thrives. And look, the truth is about immigrants and refugees is from 2005 to 2019, refugees and asylees generated a net fiscal benefit of $123.8 billion. And that was an HHS study done under the last Trump administration. Wow. Of that net $123.8 billion net benefit, meaning they paid more in taxes and revenue than they cost in government expenditures over that 15-year period. Of that benefit, $31.5 billion came in net gain for the federal government, payroll, income, excise taxes. $92.3 billion benefited state and local governments all over this country, right? They contributed $581 billion in total tax revenue. Well, the government.
That's all obviously before the Somali $1 billion.
You got to deduct $9 billion. You got to deduct $9 billion off of that.
$9 billion off of that from the Somali.
I know $9 billion from that. It's still over $100 billion benefit, right? Like, and people don't. Like
they're going to have to make up for the Somali the deficit here. That's because
we can afford it. Right? We can afford the deficit because refugees have contributed. Refugees and asylees. That's not just immigrants. That's only refugees and asylees who are being made to be boogeymen.
Let me ask another question. What's the process of getting? Is it sneaking someone out like you see in the movies, and they're in unmarked vehicles and they're driving over Kandahar mountains or airplanes? I don't know. What's the process of getting somebody out that maybe they've been made by the Taliban, but they're living in a friendly community for them? And I know how tribal it works, where they protect visitors or protect their own. How does that work?
I'm really glad you asked that, because yeah, that sounds sexy and all, but that's not what's happening, right? During the fall of Kabul, there was a lot of moving people around like that, but still, and what we were cautioning everybody around was immigration law is, especially in the United States, is really strict, right? There's no fuckery that can occur and people still be able to come here. So what we were saying is, don't send somebody someplace without a follow-on plan, without a durable solution for them to come here. So what was happening for 4 years was they would undergo all this vetting. If you go to afghanevac.org/relocation, you can see the process. It's all this vetting, all these applications. Identity is matched to jobs, to match to recommendation letters, match. The vetting is through CIA, DIA, DHS, DOD, all the Interpol, all the international folks, state and local, all that. And in Afghanistan, don't believe the bullshit that you hear. We have so much information on them that it takes longer to vet them. It's not that we don't have information on them. Yes, the Taliban's not giving us information. Who gives a shit? I don't want the Taliban's information.
No.
So they would go through all that. They'd get medical screening. They'd get their vaccinations. I know some people don't like vaccinations, but you had to get them to come here. You'd get your biometrics pulled, your fingerprints, all of that. Then you would get on a plane. You'd go right through Taliban security. The Taliban didn't really understand that we had bought out all the flights, the seats on commercial aircraft, and they would fly to one of those 3 locations. When they got there, they'd go into a secure facility. They'd get all of that vetting done again, biometrics on arrival, all of this stuff, more medical, more immigration screening, and they would arrive here in a durable status. All the people that are getting messed with now, this is the fucked up part. The people that are being messed with now are people that the United States government brought here during the withdrawal because they're still here under temporary status. So I don't know, Coach, do you think it's cool for us to bring people here and then kick them out to certain death?
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's all bad. I don't think any of that's. I don't think any of it is a good situation. I don't think any of it's a good situation. What's that? A what?
Have you ever heard you broke it, you bought
it? Sean, let me ask you this: what is one thing Americans still really don't understand or don't comprehend about our Afghan allies that you could pinpoint?
For 20 years, they served alongside us. They served alongside every, Tom, Dick, and Harry, John, Joe. Think about the people that serve in the military. That's how they were indoctrinated into an American culture, right? Yeah. Think about the corn-fed white boys from Iowa and Nebraska that were going down range, and Abdul was helping them out and learning about the American dream from those guys. I get calls every day from folks all across this country who have who it's hard for them, right? It's hard for them to square the fact that Abdul's still back there when he told him, "Hey man, work with us for a couple of years.
You're coming.
Yeah, you can come." And this is why I use Nebraska as an example and Iowa, because there are Afghan communities in those places. Like in a sea of white guys, there's like this broad, big Afghan community, and they're not trying to take over cities or anything like that. They're They've been inculcated into American culture, right?
Right.
Because we were in Afghanistan for 20 years. And then when that changed and we didn't keep up our end of the bargain, which was build democracy, a lasting democracy there, it became incumbent on us to follow through on our promises. And we said we would. We told them over and over again. And a lot of the people that are complaining right now, Marsha Blackburn, John Cornyn from the South, were the people calling me and saying, "Hey, we helped get my guy out. Hey, we need to make this happen." They were holding the Biden administration accountable, right? They wanted to have hearing after hearing after hearing about Afghanistan until the guy behind Resolute changed, and now all of a sudden we want to forget about Afghanistan. Mark Wayne Mullen. What are we doing?
Right.
And that's my biggest problem with American politics is that, and I think a lot of veterans' biggest problem, is that we forget that honor means something. Honor, courage, and commitment were the core values. And integrity. Yep. And look,
you ain't getting that from politics. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but we have to be better than that, right? We have to demand it. And people like Stephen Miller.
I think it's been so corrupted as a whole that it's.
Well, let's talk about the Epstein files.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of things you could probably bring up. I mean it's corrupted as a whole, and that's a whole.
Everyone has
another episode, a rabbit hole that we could go down. That's another issue, but I think one of the things too that if it went like the way that you were describing, is that it would be critical that people came over here with jobs, because if they don't come over here,
that's great.
Yeah, well, I'm saying I think that would be to me. That to me would be the one way that I would say would be. Because then you wouldn't have to worry about somebody.
Well, Coach, that's what the resettlement agencies are for. That's what they do. They help find people jobs.
Yeah, I know. But all these people get left behind, like they get over here. People get over here.
We don't have a joblessness crisis for these folks. All these folks have jobs.
Yeah.
There's no crisis there. DHS now, though, is trying to take away employment authorization so that they do create a joblessness crisis. Right? So, that's the thing that we're seeing happen from the government side is they're trying to pull things that allow people to do thrive, not even to thrive, to just survive. And that's why I was on the news the other day saying Kristi Noem's a liar, Kash Patel's a liar, Donald Trump's they're fucking lying about this. And that you could be a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't matter, and you should care about this thing and not stand for it when they bullshit us, because so many American veterans, mental health is tied to this. Hugely. And our very identity as Americans is tied to this. Who we are now.
What people within America that are in the current currently Senate, on the conservative side, that agrees with what you believe?
Sure. Tom Tillis, Mark Wayne Mullen cares about this. He just doesn't want to do anything about it anymore. Joni Ernst, Mike Rowley from South Dakota. I mean, we've seen Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham shook my hand, told me he would do anything he can do for Afghans. I don't know if Lindsey Graham's some liberal,
he's lying. He's lying. I'm conservative. I don't trust Lindsey Graham as far as I can throw him.
Lindsey Graham's a great guy.
Nah, he's full of shit.
Sean, 4 years in, I mean, you've been doing this. Are you optimistic or pessimistic really about the future, the remaining cases going forward? Because it's been a long 4 years.
So politicians never do anything on their own, right?
No,
we need every single one of your listeners to call their member of Congress and call their friends in the Senate and the House and say, hey, I'm a conservative. This matters to me. Go care about this. I want to see a discharge petition for this, right? Like we've got Michael McCall, who's a staunch conservative from Texas. Mike Lawler from New York. He's a New York Republican. We got Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania. We've got all these people that care deeply about this issue. I'd love to see a discharge petition in the House for something that matters, right? Like we got the Epstein files, but they're all redacted, and people are trying to play fucking games with that. So what if we did it about this thing that really matters? And what if we saw more than half the Republicans come out and supported this, right? And that's the thing, is they're taking a big risk because Stephen Miller has a lot of power. Donald Trump here and up until that shooting, Donald Trump was pretty good on Afghans. In fact, every day of the RNC, it came up. It came up during every debate. The withdrawal came up during every debate. He brought the families of our final 13 fallen down to Mar-a-Lago, spent 6 hours with them. And that's extraordinary.
Wow.
But
that is, you brought up a good point. That is part of what's going to be told about it for a while, is the fact that when you have an incident like what happens in Washington, D.C., there's going to be like a time lag again that gets stacked on because you're going to have public backlash, right?
It's not public backlash. It's backlash from the government.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. There might be, depends on what side you talk to for public backlash. I would say.
Listen, what my observation has been, and I go spend a lot of time in a lot of conservative places, is Joe Wilson. Joe Wilson is the guy that yelled, "You lie" at Obama. Would you think that he's a liberal bastion, a liberal lion? Probably not, right? He's as MAGA as they come. And you can go look at our social media. He stood there with me last week and said, this is an isolated incident. We cannot use this one incident to cause harm to all these people because people recognize PTSD. They know what it looks like when a veteran of our war breaks. And that's what happened. This guy was otherwise a hero.
Right.
What happened isn't an Afghan man went and killed a service member. Right. It's somebody who fought our wars, killed somebody who was ready to fight our wars. And that's fucked up.
Yeah, there's a bigger overall issue.
Is that we fund the front end of the wars, the bombs and the missiles, and we don't fund the back end and take care of
it. I agree with that.
Squeeze balls all the time. Get the fuck out of here. I don't need that. I need mental health support. I need jobs and housing.
Absolutely.
That's a good point.
I definitely 100% agree with that. I mean, I think that's the biggest part of the overall issue is that there isn't enough mental health support for veterans, for people that have fought wars, people that have fought on our side, to be able to help them get through the things that were obviously
that's a bare minimum
traumatic events that happen to people and never going to leave them. I mean,
did you know he asked for help like a few weeks before that, and the CIA ignored him?
Oh no, I don't doubt any of the things that you're saying. I don't doubt any of that at all.
So what we need to do is we need, especially conservatives, because Democrats don't matter, right? We need conservatives to stand up and say, we need you there for us on this issue. We know that people are all over this. We know that the World Relief, which is the big Christian resettlement agency, they've been incredible. There's a group called, there's a bunch of women's groups out there, Mormon women, Christian women all over this country, women of faith. What we're seeing is faith leaders from the Catholic Church, the Christian churches, the Episcopalian, Lutherans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They all care about this. Jewish folks care about this. Everybody of faith cares about this. And
it sounds like listen, you're to be commended as far as how you're fighting. I mean, it seems like,
well, it's passion, it's enthusiasm.
Yes. It seems like there has to be to me, I'm just viewing this out from the outside, right? Looking in, listening to what you're saying, but it becomes a situation where the educational process of helping people to understand why they should care more about it is a difficult one that has to be presented like you are doing over and over again and on a larger scale. I think that is a definite stumbling block. You know what I mean? Because it's not, it's not on the turning point agenda, right? You know what I mean? When they're going from city to city. So like,
but grown-ups can disagree, right? Like we need people of faith and conservatives to show up and say to Turning Point, say to President Trump, hey, this issue is one with which we disagree with you on.
Yeah.
We've got to get this right. If you care about veterans, and we hear that people care about veterans.
We say it.
Unless you're going to show me that you care by taking care of our friends that saved our lives.
So what I would ask you, if you got a 15-minute meeting with Donald Trump tomorrow, what would you say in those 15 minutes?
Well, I would commend him for negotiating the end to the war. And I would say it's really important that we follow through on all of these promises that were made, right? He is letting Stephen Miller squander his relationship with veterans, and I know he values his relationship with veterans. A lot of the people that are around him, Tim Kennedy was spending a lot of time at the White House. He was front and center in all this, right? Zach Nunn, a congressman from Iowa, is a member of our coalition. He's a Republican with President Trump's endorsement. People that President Trump care about. Lara Logan cares deeply about this. Stephen Miller is never going to be sold on anything immigration. So if something's going to be different, we need President Trump to lead on it. And if he did that, he would have the loyalty of all of these Afghans, and people all over the world would believe that America's word means something.
Yeah.
Who is in conflict in this? Like, so like you mentioned, I think you mentioned Kash Patel, right?
People around
and like, where does like a guy like Dan Bongino stand on something like this? What, like, I'm just curious.
I have no idea. I know Laura Loomer does not like Muslims, so she attacked us, which whatever. And because we support Afghans, but
I mean, that's always going to be. I think that's going to be a stumbling block here and there, but it's and I think it's going to be it's a stumbling block because of the climate more so than about those individuals and obviously what their families, serving America. I think the climate is an issue, and whether it's a level of misinformation or not. The climate is the climate, right? Like,
90% of the American public supports Afghans, right?
How much?
90% of the American public. The polling we had from last year showed 90%.
I don't even know whether I should or until you brought this up to me. Honestly, I didn't even know that it was like, you know what I'm saying? Until this came to the forefront for us, I didn't even know this was an issue one way or the other, right? So I obviously know about them America pulling out and how quick that was, and obviously all of that. But I didn't even know that this part was really installed. I started researching, obviously what you were doing to get ready for this, right? And so I think that's. So I do think that's probably like what Laura Loomer thinks is like, she's anti-Islamic. Like, I think that is, you have this like strange conglomeration of issues that are getting thrown onto this topic, right? Probably unwarranted. I admit that like that might be the case, right? But
nobody's asked where that guy got that gun, right?
I think there's so many things. I mean, in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of things that may have gone on that would slam any one of these things.
Just like the Brown shooting over the weekend.
I mean, any kind of thing related to some of the things going on because of whether you have the issue that happened in D.C. or you have what's going on.
You guys remember that Minnesota
with Somalian issues? So these things get lumped together. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so the thing is, you've got it has to be fought through to get to the forefront that it's different than some of the other issues. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think we successfully do that. I want to talk to you about. Do you remember this Minnesota shooting?
Yeah.
So, Christian nationalist guy goes and kills 2 Democratic lawmakers in their homes, right? Or kills one, their husband.
Yep.
You know what he had written on his gun?
I do not know what he had written on his gun.
He had all sorts of shit written on his gun, but he also had written on there a message about killing the one Jewish resettlement agency.
Oh my God.
I think we have as big of a problem in this country with hate for Jewish people, for Muslim people, for all these people. And we care about that. Like, there's groups of people that care about all of them, right? No, none of those folks deserve to be hunted down and killed.
Absolutely.
And the vast majority of people doing that in our country are not Muslims.
No.
They're young white men, right? Well, we're not like looking at their identity as a reason to mess with them.
There's no doubt what you're saying is true, but the issue again, I think, is the biggest thing is going to be separating out this particular thing, and like I think the way that you highlighted it is really good, but it has to be separated out, because what happens is when these things get thrown onto the table. So I'll use this example. There's obviously a huge Somali population in Minnesota, right? And they want more Somali refugees from their civil war that's going on to be brought over, right? And they happen to be obviously of Islamic faith, right? And so you start to get certain things that start to get muddled together. I'm not saying it's correct, it's wrong, okay? But that's the thing that has to be able to, just like you're 100% right. Like when there's people that are anti-Semitic, we need to call that out. When people are overtly racist, that has to be called out. When there's somebody treating an Islamic person that is doing absolutely nothing wrong, there's an issue with that, right? But there's also, we have to be able to figure out, how do we go from that to being able to decipher individually? Because I don't think that we have an ability. We should, but I don't think we do have the ability within the government to figure these things out, or maybe we have a competency issue. We might have a competency issue.
So one thing, I want to congratulate you on being a founding father. Freedom of religion was one of our founding principles, right? We wanted people to be able to come here and worship however they wanted to. Right?
Correct.
So whether you're Jewish or Muslim or Christian or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever,
right,
you should be able to worship in whatever way you want. And if you guys want to sort of gather together and live in the same areas, by all means. I've been to the North End in Boston. There's a lot of Italians there. Look, and there's a lot of Irish folks in Boston, right? Like, people want to live where they want to live. Earlier in the broadcast, we talked about the various programs that were decimated by the administration. One that I didn't talk about was these this funding for community groups, which allowed them to create sensing mechanisms to take care of their own and to flag. You've heard of see something, say something, to flag if there's a problem. But if all those problems go away, you start seeing these things pop up. And what the administration is saying, oh, look at these big problems that they created, because we had a handle on it.
Could have been stopped.
And that's the thing, that as an expert in this, as a scholar in Homeland Security, somebody who's written about these programs for 2 decades, it's infuriating to me, because there are problems that our country faces.
Who should we fire?
We're creating our own problem, creating problems for ourselves.
Sean, who should we fire? Who should we be putting in? Who should be fired and who should be put in?
All right, Stephen Miller should be fired, no question. Put me in. I'll go be his Homeland Security advisor. I got this. I'm more of an expert than that guy is.
Stephen Miller, he's my favorite. I got a picture of him next to Joseph Mengele by my bed. I mean, come on.
You guys see that Vanity Fair spread? What happened there?
No, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Sean, I wanted to ask you, I know this is probably a tough question, but what would you say your proudest rescue story, if you had to go back and say one that you could pinpoint?
We try not to get too specific about a lot of the different folks, but there's stories where, I'll tell you one. Our coalition is very broad, right? One day, somebody came to us and said, hey, there's this woman who's facing domestic violence. She's the principal applicant. She wants to get out of there. Her husband keeps beating her and is maybe flirting with the Taliban. How do we take care of this lady? And the Biden State Department worked together very quickly to get her safe passage to Pakistan and very swiftly through the process. And now she's here and she's thriving with her kids. And that guy's still stuck back there.
Right.
I have to tell you that I want to make a really clear point here. I know that there are people who have a lot to say about Joe Biden or a lot to say about Donald Trump, but the government employees that worked on this in Biden and Trump were so extraordinary. The CARE team, the Coordinator for Afghan Relocation Efforts, the folks at DHS, at USCIS, at the State Department, at DOD, they were extraordinary people breaking themselves to make sure that we followed through on our promise. And they're broken now. They're devastated with what has happened because laws are being broken. There was a law passed that said there had to be a Coordinator for Afghan Relocation Efforts. The administration's just ignored it. They've shut down these programs.
Right.
And people have dedicated their entire lives. Its marriages have been lost. I lost 3 jobs and a marriage because of this. And I don't regret a single bit of it.
Oh my God.
I've been doing this as a volunteer for 4.5 years. Right now we're trying to raise money so that we can turn this into a paid gig, not just for me, but for a staff of people that have been working on this.
Right.
And to see all of our hard work, we built the safest, most secure legal immigration pathway. And we did it because we thought that President Trump was going to get reelected. We built the safest, most secure legal immigration pathway that we hoped was good enough because it was the best. And what the truth was is that Stephen Miller just didn't want Afghans here.
So can I ask, when President Trump was first in office and then when Biden came in office, I mean, was there a distinct change when that happened? And then when Trump came back into office,
remember COVID hit in the last year of President Trump's.
Correct. Right.
So they had tried to turn off resettlement and SIV. They were sued. The court said you have to keep it on. Congress said over and over you have to keep it on. So they were doing it. It was slow, but there were no visa interviews happening in the last year of his presidency. And then the resettlement system is funded per person that is resettled here. So, and they set the cap early in the year. So all of that had withered and died because President Trump had killed it, right? So they had to rebuild all of that. Like, that's why it was so fucked up and why it took so long is that everything had been decimated, but we rebuilt it smarter, faster, and better, and leveraging AI, leveraging tools, intelligence tools that made it the strongest and safest and most secure. And we had hoped that it wouldn't face the same fate, but on day one it got killed. And now I know a guy named Barack whose son had his privates blown off at that Abbey Gate. Yeah.
Oh,
that
God.
kid is still stuck back there.
I read about that.
Here, devastated. He called me walking into the White House one day, and I told him, and they were getting all the things done to get this little boy who's grievously injured here to his dad. The 3,000 family of active duty U.S. military, 200 of which are trapped on a U.S. basing cutter that we brought them there. They're fucked, and nobody cares in government. So what we need is Congress to step up. We need the American people to step up. And even if we have to wait these guys out, whoever's next, we got to make sure that they understand how important this is to our veterans and to everyday Americans.
And Dave, I think the biggest thing is the Afghans that are coming over. It's not about the Muslim faith. They're Americans. I mean, they've been working with the American military. I think
they're not Americans yet.
I think it's
they're
different.
Not Americans.
Yeah, but I mean, they're different than typical Muslims.
To America as refugees,
right?
But they're not all coming as refugees, right? They're coming as special immigrant visa holders. They're coming a variety of different pathways.
Right.
But they're different than typical Muslims.
They've done more for our country than most Americans I know, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Put their lives on the line, and I know a lot of guys, including Stephen Miller, who never served in the military. I know a lot of folks who talk a lot of shit, and I would trust these Afghans far more than I would trust a lot of the folks running around making a bunch of noise about America first, right? Like, don't tell me America first when you're. Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts about that. I have.
No,
wasn't
Steve, common sense.
Wasn't Stephen Miller a cook on one of the ships you were deployed on in West Africa?
He wishes.
That's great.
Stephen Miller, he's getting you going after your job. It's coming apart.
So, Sean, Afghan evac. Are you still obviously taking volunteers? Can people volunteer to go over?
What we would rather people do is not volunteer for us.
Okay.
Volunteer for your local resettlement agency. Volunteer with the Afghans in your local community. Volunteer. We are taking volunteers for battle buddies. And Coach, I'm going to see you at the next Battle Buddies thing. This is what we're going to do. Battle Buddies is veterans, frontline civilians, and people who are involved in the evacuation signing up to stand with our Afghan allies in immigration court, saying, hey, these guys are with us. You can't just detain them for no fucking reason. So you can hit your number. And
I would spend big money, Sean. I would spend big money to see Coach carrying an Afghan flag and waving it proudly in that crowd. I would pay.
Yeah, you got it. Join me. I'll be in New York next week.
That's great.
And what would be your final message to the Afghan families still waiting and to the Americans who feel guilty or helpless of the situation?
I'd say to the Afghan families, lay low. Let people like me and all of us on this call fight this fight.
Fight the battle.
It's not safe to pop your head up right now.
Right.
What I would say to Americans is pop your fucking head up, man. If you're an American
citizen, to get involved.
Let's go. Call your members of Congress. Share it online. Go look at our website, our social media. You can share any of that stuff. And make a donation. We need your support.
Yes.
AfghanEvac.org/donate. Whether it's $10,000, $100, or somewhere in between, we need your support so we can keep going. Coach, are you gonna make a donation?
Send me the link.
You got it.
It's going to be in the show notes. I will put it in the show notes.
There you go.
There you go. I'm gonna look for it.
Frank, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I saw Sean. I saw a picture of you with President Biden and the First Lady.
I put that up. I put that up.
At one point of that. And
just now I'm not donating.
No,
I take a picture of President Trump.
It was the best one I could find. Just
to keep the good feel of the conservative show that we have here. Number one, did he know who you were? And number two, did he know your name? That's all I want to know.
He does know who I am and does know my name because I was all over his ass about Afghans. And every time I ever saw him, he said, "Are you here to shake me down for Afghans again?" And I said, "Yes, I sure am." And
that's great.
And I mean, he and I got into it. We had several disagreements. My finger in the face of the president and the chief of staff, like saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" Over and over. And look, you know why I have respect for President Biden in this vein? It's because he took it and he let me keep coming back and keep giving feedback because people around him wanted to get it right.
Right. And
right?
That's not
up when he pulled out. So
yeah, I agree.
So the last thing I would say, Doge obviously had a purpose, but it went too far, is what you're saying. They slashed too much and have caused too many problems with what they've done.
You didn't see any LGBTQ money going through Afghanistan there like it was that was coming up? No,
but I'll tell you what, we would have taken it.
Yeah,
right. It's true.
I don't care I don't give a shit who you love. If you're fighting for America, fight for America, man.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I like it.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your thoughts, putting up with the three of us.
Oh, you're awesome, dude. You're doing a great job.
We really are.
Steve, the debate, the only way you get anywhere on any of these things is to debate it out in the open.
I know.
People can hear both sides.
Yeah.
And hear what each other thinks. That's how you get closer to solutions.
I agree.
I'm going to come back and fight with Coach again another time.
I agree.
You're the best, dude. That was great. I love it. I love it. It was awesome.
I agree. You could say fuck you, agree to disagree, whatever. But at the end of the day, we shake hands. We're all friends. We all want the same thing. We all want this country to be great. We all want to support the Afghans in.
Sean, all I know is that within the last hour, I learned a lot more of what I did not know before. So I appreciate it.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Sean.
Thank you all so much.
I'll definitely
actually asked some good questions this week, which is amazing.
I did
It's a
research.
shocker.
I did research. I
Teleprompter.
dressed up. I did research. I
You
did
didn't have
research.
to put on any controversial music or anything like that, Steve. You know, we actually
No, we
did a
didn't. No,
great job.
listen, I did research. He's a superstar. I mean, he's been everywhere.
Give Sean one more time the organization. Where can people donate?
AfghanEvac.org/donate.
Perfect.
And if you want our regular Monday morning updates, go to AfghanEvac.substack.com. You can find us, and we'll be in your inbox every Monday, and you can get updates on what's really happening with this.
Like a newsletter?
Yep.
Okay.
Go read our newsletters, Coach.
Yeah, we'll do that.
That will read 100%.
There's a donate button all over them, Coach.
I watched interviews. I would
be disappointed if there wasn't, Sean. I would be disappointed if there wasn't.
They need it, man. They need it. So, for the voice of reason himself, Frank Cristiano,
yes,
Coach Schumann, and our very special guest, the president of Afghan Evac, Sean Van Diver, right? I said it right that time.
Got it.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Sean. Great job.
Great job, guys.
Hold on. I'm Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.